The No Fade channel, checking in. And today we're going to have a little bit of a discussion regarding the recent study that was done to show the effectiveness of facial coverings. So, like all things, there's a little bit of controversy, and like many things, the media jumped on it, grabbed a few headlines, and didn't bother actually reading the article. So I'm going to put the study up here, and I'll put a link to it in the description below. The reason I'm actually having this discussion is because I've gotten a lot of questions. I did 2 videos reviewing SA Fishing Neck Gaiters, that is in terms of their effectiveness and with regards to just using them as facial shields and just everyday use. And I did another video just showing how to use a neck gaiter for a facial covering. And a lot of people have asked me what I thought about the study, and basically a lot of people blew up my comments saying that these things are horrible for you, you shouldn't use them. So let's get into it. So they did a study, and like most people, no one read it, they just looked at the headlines. And the headlines were that these neck gaiters were worse than wearing no mask at all. That was like the takeaway from the media. And when you actually read the study, they actually did a good study. It was a good faith study. They weren't trying to prove anything. They weren't trying to really, have a point. They just wanted to see which facial coverings were good, which ones were great, and which ones were not very good at all. So as you would expect, spoiler alert, N95 masks are the best facial covering in terms of preventing the exposure of your germs. Keep in mind, that's what these facial coverings are trying to do. Any facial covering that you wear is not necessarily trying to prevent you from catching anything. It's trying to prevent you from giving it out, giving it away, right? The idea is that if you are sick, if you are contagious, when you cough, when you talk, all of those germ particles are trapped. They stay as close to your face as possible. We probably have all seen the image of someone sneezing and it goes like 6 feet in every direction, right? Everyone's infected. So the purpose of these facial coverings, again, as I've mentioned in previous videos, it's not to keep you safe, it's to keep everyone around you safe and prevent the spread of your germs. So as you would imagine, N95 masks came clear winner. The other mask that they reviewed was those paper masks that we see for 50 cents that they're sold. They're super thin. They look like surgical masks, but they're super thin, and most people will just wear them underneath their chin for good measure. I don't know why they don't put them on correctly, but I don't know if it's some type of rebellion against having to wear a face mask. But regardless, most of the people I see wearing them, either they have them below their nose or just underneath their chin. But those did very well as well. And the other one that did decent, did fair, was cloth masks, which tend to be fairly popular. And that tends to be what I wear when I have to go out for long periods of time. But one of the things I do wear often when I'm just making a trip into the store, like a grocery store, or just going to pick something up, run in, run out, is these neck gaiters. So how did the neck gaiters do? The neck gaiters did horrible, and that was the big headline that people grabbed. The neck gaiters did so bad that the people doing the study said that they did worse than not wearing a facial covering whatsoever. And the reason that they believe that they did even worse was because that the porous material on these neck gaiters was causing whatever was coming out of your mouth to be expelled, but to be diffused in the air, so it actually spread out even more than if you had no mask on whatsoever. A few things of note for that study: they didn't actually say the company of neck gaiter that they used. They didn't mention it. They didn't put it in the findings. And I believe they even mentioned this a little bit, was that they used one of these super stretchy kind, the kind that is like this kind that I have here in my hand. It's almost made out of like a light spandex, and I don't necessarily think they use the SA Fishing kind, which has a lot less stretch to it, but it is slightly porous. Okay, so one of the things that they mentioned was, again, and one of the things that is important to note is that they used single ply when they did this, and they were using one of these stretchable ones. Now overall, when I wear this, I'm going to show you how I use these neck gaiters so people can see, because some people had asked me to show. I use it as a double ply. I use it doubled up. I throw it over my face and nose. And then to ensure that it's actually tight and doesn't go anywhere, which is part of the big problem with these masks, I wrap it over the back of my head. So as you can see, it is super, super tight on the face. It's almost downright uncomfortable, but it is double plied, and that's a big thing, because one of the takeaways from the study that most people didn't bother to read was that the cloth masks performed better the more layers, which makes sense, right? The more layers of blockages you have, the more prevention you're going to have from spreading stuff out. And one of the things that they did mention is that they only use this as a single ply, not a double ply. And that's something that we know. We know these are not meant to be used as surgical masks, and we know that they're not very good in terms of preventing your body from spreading out stuff. But I happen to think that they're better than nothing. So I would say personally, I think this is better than no mask at all. And honestly, I also think that if you're doubling this up, it's going to be even better than a single ply. Now, do I think the material matters? Yes, absolutely. I happen to think that something like this, which has a lot more stretch to it and a lot more porous, is going to be probably not as good, and we might be splitting hairs, but not as good as this SA Fishing one, which has a lot less stretch to it and seems to be a bit tougher, a bit denser of material. Now, I'm going to show you how I put this one on. Same exact fashion. The only difference is because there's less stretch in this SA Fishing Neck Gaiter, I don't wrap it around the back of my head fully. I only use one ply to wrap it around the back of my neck. So again, it's doubled up. Over the face it goes. And then I take the top ply and just kind of do something like that. Wrap it around. And one of the reasons I like this form is because once it's on, it doesn't move. It's super tight. And one of the big problems with masks is that people put them on and they move. Okay, so they put them on their face and they move, and either they're touching their face to move the masks correctly, or they don't bother and the mask ends up sitting like this, doing no good for anybody. So overall, I think that was a good study. I think it was an important study, and I think it showed, obviously, if you can get your hand on an N95 mask, use that. But I do think it was a little misleading because they only used a single ply, and they used one of the cheaper versions of these neck gaiters. Overall, these neck gaiters never meant to be surgical anything, right? The big proponent of these neck gaiters is really something that I use. Like if you're in the yard and you don't want to get dust in your face, you do something like that just to kind of prevent that dust in your face. There's a number of different uses of these neck gaiters. I've used them especially in the yard. I even use them when driving just to kind of prevent the side of my neck from getting sunburnt. Tons of other things, ways I've used these. I've used them as bandanas, stuff like that. Overall, I think these neck gaiters, these SA Fishing Neck Gaiters and even other company neck gaiters are good because they're not meant to be used as facial coverings. They're meant to be used for a host of other things, not to prevent you from spreading anything. And I think even if you read on the website, they'll even say not meant to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Overall, don't believe everything you hear in the media. Do your own research. Read the article, read the full article, read the case study, and draw your own conclusions. If you are concerned about giving out your germs, definitely get yourself an N95 mask and just sanitize it regularly. That's probably the best way to do it. One thing to note, one thing that I think people often overlook is you'll see these masks with what look like respirators on them. They look like filters. And what that does is that allows when a person breathes in, all that air coming in is filtered through that little gasket right on the side of that mask. But when they breathe out, here's the kicker. When they breathe out, everything that they breathe out goes out through that filter. And that's why, like if you go to a place like Disney or Orlando Universal Studios, when you go in, they don't let you bring your own mask. You have to use their masks. Reason being is because those look like super efficient, super effective masks that are, top of the line, super expensive, but they're not actually preventing you from spreading what you might have to everybody else. It's just protecting you from breathing anything in. So it's kind of defeats the purpose of wearing the mask. Again, we're all wearing these masks throughout our day, looking rather stupid, feeling rather foolish to prevent the spread. Not necessarily prevent us from getting it, just prevent other people from getting it. So those little like gasket filter masks that you see people wearing, those are doing you no good. They're only protecting the person actually wearing that mask. Food for thought. Hopefully you found this video informative. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, opinions, drop them in the comments below. If you came this far in the video, give this video a like, hit that subscribe button. As usual, thanks for watching, and don't save anything for the trip back. I am dedicated to helping you be a great parent to your children and still accomplish your own personal goals. I provide ideas and insights to help you save time, money, and your sanity. 3 things that are in short supply for every parent out there.